Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to PWI, Public Works and Infrastructure Committee. I'm Commissioner Robert Patrick, who serves as the chair. I'm joined by my colleagues, Commissioner Messiah, as well as Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Terry is with us as well. Let's get started with minutes. Agenda item 2025-1074. Commissioners, if you are comfortable with the minutes.
Move to approve item 2025-1074.
Second.
All right, we've got a proper motion, proper second. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
All right, perfect. Director Hauser? As always, we want to have a very full conversation with you, but we also want to be mindful of time constraints, so.
I'm just going to make this quickly, at least my portion. Earlier this year, we had a host of discussions regarding the challenges to our water and sewer infrastructure. Today, we're going to focus more on the water side, specifically our strategy on replacing small diameter water lines. I know you probably heard from a lot of your constituents challenges that they may have experienced due to breaks in the neighborhoods. And what we're generally going to do, I'm going to introduce our technical experts, and I'm just going to let them talk. Y'all have heard about the problem a lot from me, and I think we are well aware of it. So let me introduce our partners that have helped in the development of this strategy. So we have our CIP program managers, AECOM. You've met Greg Harrison before. Where's Greg? Over there. He is the lead for AECOM. We additionally have our professional engineers experts. So with 30 years, we have Brad Curran as well. When we talk about the master plan for the water system as well as the hydraulic model, we do have a hydraulic model on the water system. It's Brad Curran's thumbprints that are on there. We also have Shane Ramarak, who is going to be talking about addressing, he is in this day-to-day looking at projects, compiling those projects. On the other side, we recently started a year ago an effort with Arcadis Engineering, and y'all may notice the young man there, Mr. Michael Diaz there, and he is the lead for Arcadis. They are helping us with our asset management. So not just our linear system, our pipes, but additionally our vertical system, our plants, and just how we manage all of the assets for our water and sewer enterprise. So I'm going to turn it over to them. You should have copies there, and we sent over electronic copies. And we're going to start with kind of where we are, the snapshot for the breaks, and I'm going to take it away. I think Shane is going to do it, and everybody is going to kind of stand to the side if you have questions. Thank you, Shane.
Okay.
Afternoon, all.
Good afternoon. Good to see you again, Shane.
Likewise.
Yep.
So starting off with the break rate through the county, we understand that there's been a lot of issues with respect to the aging infrastructure, the linear potable water infrastructure. What we've seen through the districts, as you see, on the screen right now, is that there's a variance in the impact of the aging infrastructure through the districts, where we have a difference in sort of the amount of breaks and the break rates for the infrastructure. But I also want to say, and I will show you as we go through this, that the break rates and what we see and feel on a daily basis is only one of the many components that we have or considerations in respect of the master planning, and moving through from chasing, having a reactive approach to addressing this issue to a proactive approach where we create projects and resilience in our system therefrom. So why does this matter to us? Firstly, we acknowledge that the infrastructure is aging, and from that acknowledgement, then we generate a plan based on that, and that. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And we generate a plan from that, both long-term, short-term. With respect to some of the planning, we understand that the system has capacity constraints. Basically, with respect to capacity constraints, or a capacity constraint, we're unable to implement the maintenance and replacement of the system on a large scale. Just simply put, we cannot afford to take a lot of the system offline at a time. So we need to provide that capacity, that redundance in the system. The approach to that we'll discuss as well in the upcoming slides, but in essence that is with respect to the American Water Works Association M77. So that speaks to condition assessment, risk analysis, where we look at the assets on a sort of a smaller level and use that information to build up our understanding of the replacement strategy in the long term. In the short term, with respect to the problem at hand, it's not as though we have not been doing anything about it. We have, in fact, over the past 5 years, spent about $142 million in the replacement or recapitalization of this infrastructure. So all we're saying going forward is that the problem is still at hand. It's a big problem, and we are ramping up our effort to the tune of about $1 billion over the next decade, so through the current CIP. So with respect to then now moving through from acknowledging the problem to defining projects for implementation and sorting out the issue, what we do is we undertake a risk assessment approach to inform or to guide us in terms of those decisions. What you see on the screen currently is are the breaks that I showed you initially on I think the second slide, where we illustrated the break rates to the county. Those dots actually represent about 8,000 breaks over the last 8 years, and that translates roughly to about 3 breaks a day. Our previous approach in this matter was a reactive one, where we basically, tried to remedy each issue as we encountered them. And that is a very difficult process to undertake from a feasibility perspective, from the perspective of maximizing our resources with respect to the 3,000 odd miles of infrastructure that we need to maintain within the county. So just going to hand this over to Michael.
Thank you, Shane. Good afternoon, commissioners. Like Shane indicated, really this is trying to implement industry best practices, really looking at not only the level of failure, but the consequence of failure. So as you can see in there, it's really not just looking at specifically at a pipe location, looking at the pipe material, looking to see how many breaks you've had in that area, but then ultimately adding on top of that or layering the consequence of failure. And so to give you an example, there's a difference between the water main break that may be occurring in front of a fire station, versus something that may be happening in a neighborhood and there's not a lot of traffic kind of happening in there. So really, Arcata's, in collaborating with AECOM and Watershed Department is really looking to try and look at this risk-based assessment. The industry has been doing this now for a little bit over 20 years, and so it's an opportunity really for DeKalb County to be able to start taking sort of those next steps as they move forward.
So taking the information from the study at a pipe segment level and asset level, so we take those segments and we need to then generate projects from that. And in addition to those considerations, so the constraints that Michael's mentioned, we then need to take into consideration other key planning sort of criteria or activities. Some of those planning, the coordination that's required is with respect to, for example, the master plan. So that has a long-term view of the system, the health of the system, redundancy, resilience, capacity, so the growth within the system. Further to that, we then look at other infrastructure, major infrastructure projects. For example, GDOT projects, the widening of I-285. we may not want to. We may want to delay the installation of this expensive infrastructure until they've done their work, so that they don't actually sort of dig our stuff up or interfere with that. We may also conversely want to get ahead of some of the other projects, maybe like a streetscape project or something like that, where they are undertaking some work doing paving. We don't want to go behind them and sort of rip that paving up. So that's one thing. We also consider in the process health and safety, and primarily a key consideration is firefighting requirements, so hydraulic capacity for firefighting requirements. Also, some of the installations need to be brought up to standard, so with respect to maybe spacing and so forth. So we do that one time while we're doing when we sort of generating the new projects. We also have to have a view of the long-term operability, so with respect to the maintenance and replacement of infrastructure. So what we try and do is ensure that there's adequate valves in the system, for example, to isolate the system, so that we can indeed undertake that maintenance and replacement as required. So altogether, what we've done then is, at this stage, we would have moved through from identifying the issue, undertaking a risk assessment, taking the assets at a small level and grouping them, coordinating with other key planning activities, and then through a objective, repeatable, science-based process, we then move through to the large-scale renewal of the system. What happens then at this point is that the projects that we have take the form of a neighborhood or corridor. So what that does is, in terms of resilience, means that once we've tackled perhaps a neighborhood or corridor, an important corridor, that means that we've strengthened that component of the system to the extent that it requires less, if not no, effort from our side, to the point that we can then move on to other areas that require such attention. So we have then moved through from a state of being reactive to proactive, to the extent that we limit inconvenience, maximize the sort of the feasibility of the process, and most certainly move from the state of not having a plan at all, from a reactive state, to definitely having a plan, a long-term plan of where we headed with what we are doing. Any questions?
Commissioner Terry.
Sure.
Thank you. Was that the only one? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So that last slide, go back one. Yeah, okay. So this is just an illustrative example of how you would approach kind of a neighborhood node, I guess.
Yes.
And, okay, so you're just sort of showing an example. Have you already done these projects, or have we done these projects, just say?
No, these are planned projects.
It's a planned project.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, just generally speaking, from your professional opinion, and maybe this is more sort of on the goal of accomplishing everything we need to do in the 10-year horizon. And I don't know if Maria wants to chime in on this a lot, but I think the concern and fear I have is that we have more money than we've ever had before to do a lot of projects. And in the past, we got ourselves jammed up, like past, of having all this money, and we weren't able to spend it. And they got negative arbitrage. And so we're getting ready to have a $425 million bond next week that we're going to consider, and then 2 years later, another one. So, and I believe this was covered a little bit in the Mullins and Jenkins assessment, but how are y'all looking at sort of just the best procurement sort of pipeline? And then, and based on my research, I've become aware of, I guess, sort of 3 different methods: progressive design build. There's design build, and then there's CMAR, construction manager at risk. I understand that I believe we exclusively use design build, but we don't do progressive and we don't do CMAR. Are there, and this is for Maria and then our experts here, are there any efficacies in expanding the way we do some of these projects that either they're small or large scale, that would keep us, on that timeline and making sure that, as the money comes in, we're able to, go through that procurement process in the right way, but also at the same time make sure that we, stop any kinks along the,
Okay.
you know what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? Yeah.
So under the full capital CIP plan, we look at different instrumentations. You've mentioned the 3 primary ones. We also work with our partners in the procurement basis, but we look at the project. So for example, the water projects, for the small diameter projects, they are a little bit different than our sewer projects and our large base sewer projects. These small diameter projects do not require as much design as our gravity sewer projects. Okay. So a lot of the components you're mentioning now, we are considering and we have considered them for the large sewer projects, but the water projects, a lot of times we're going to do replacements in the same area where the water lines are, and we're just going to plug and play. There are certain areas, and we are going to mention it in what we're projecting to do. For instance, remember the transmission main. We are going to have to do design work surrounding that, and that has been done. And the best procurement vehicle for getting that accomplished, of course, we will consider that. But a lot of what you're talking about also balances the risk. And once you lower the risk for DeKalb County and you place it more on the contractor, the price goes up. And that's a balancing feat into the different mechanisms we're going to utilize for bringing the CIP and establishing the CIP and keeping it on track. The good news is about the water system. These gentlemen here on this side, they have been packaging a lot of projects that go beyond the 10-year CIP. We have $1 billion that they have plugged and played with already, and they have extra that will go for another decade right now. So there's a lot of projects we have that they've already packaged and said this is our recommendation based on the risk analysis that Arcadis is doing right now, and AECOM, they've packaged them. The funding is still a need in the future. We don't anticipate a lot of issues on the water side. Does that help, Commissioner Terry?
Yeah, thank you for that explanation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions?
I do have a question. So when we are talking about, especially in these neighborhood water replacement projects, do we have the on-call contracts? I know we have that on the sewer side, but do we also have that on the water side?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Awesome. So that will also help with the efficiency of getting the work done.
Yes.
Sure.
And
Absolutely.
we're working on a new on-call
Okay.
as well. A
Thank
lot
you.
of work to be done.
Yes.
Commissioner Masai.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Mr. Chair. And speaking of on call, I'm loving just focusing on the operation of things, making sure that we're addressing all long-term needs ahead of time versus being reactive, just putting us in a position to be able to be proactive. To that vein, is there a way, just looking at District 3, and the number of breaks and the percentages and comparing with other districts and just how high, and I see it's right there. And I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Your name is again?
Shane.
Shane. I
Yes.
see Shane smiling there. But I will tell you, it'd be great, and I know we're focusing on more of a specialized aspect of things, but as things are, we have these water main breaks. Is there a way to be able to provide more of an update or notice when they're taking place? And I know that's also in part with the administration, but I mean, especially since we have someone that's on call now, even as they're taking place in the evening time. And I'm speaking in representation, of course, of my constituents, with that being just an ongoing challenge, and even as a commissioner, finding out sometimes through the news or PR. So just Can you speak to that in terms of giving us a little bit more
Absolutely.
notice?
So that's more on the operational front, and I
Right.
know Reggie is sitting there, and what we try to do, it's a couple of fronts right now. We do try to get an email out notifying everyone. We also try, if it's going to be a while, we try to do a press release, and then on the 24-hour number that you could call for water breaks or even sewer spills, we tend to do a recording on there that we know for break XYZ. But as you can imagine, having 3 or sometimes 4 in a day, some of them we could easily deal with. Others, it's going to be lengthy time frame, and we try to do a lot more of the pushing out of the information on the lengthy at times. But we are planning to improve that communication.
That's
So
great.
more to come
Thank
on
you.
that one.
And I see, Randy, just, with District 3 being the second largest number of breaks per year, and just realizing that compared to, again, another district that has per 100 miles per year, I think is what it says, but the second largest number of breaks. Is there, how are we identifying in terms of the priority? I know we had some priorities originally. Yeah, so that I figured that's what you were shaking your head earlier.
Yeah.
That was going directly to, but yes, can you speak to that? That'd be great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And that's a good question. What I was trying to explain with the break rates is that is something that we see and feel that's immediate, but at the end of the day, that's not the only consideration. With respect to the recapitalization of this infrastructure, in terms of the condition assessment, we look at likelihood and consequence of failure. The likelihood of failure speaks to the condition. Under the condition, we consider the pipe material. Some are better than others. We look at the age of the infrastructure, and we also, in addition, look at to that we look at the break rate. So that's one of many components, and there are others in addition to that. Under the consequence of failure, let's get this right. Under the consequence of failure, we're considering the impact, and there are further considerations within that constraint. So there's the hydraulic significance, so the impact to the system, perhaps. We also consider the uses that are affected, the cost of the impact, and so forth. So the break rate that you see there is one of many constraints and components, and I've also explained that we have other coordination activities that we basically need to plan with other key considerations basically that we need to take into account. Yeah.
And thank you for sharing that, and make sure that's made more clear so people can understand how that process is taking place. So thank you. I yield back to you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Just a quick comment to add to some of the discussion that's happened here. I've noticed that in places where water lines have been replaced long ago, the county's approach was to do that single trench and then come back and put asphalt on top of the trench line. But I also noticed that in the Chambly neighborhoods that we started repaving the entire lane. Is there a way that we can prioritize that or include that in future activities, since it does have a nicer look on the community as opposed to that tread line going through?
I understand.
So part of it, in each city, you have different requirements. So what we do, whenever we take a project and it's in a city, we have to get permission and we have to get our construction plans signed off. So particular areas, for instance, they may require for the full repaving versus just the strip. Mm-hmm. And we save a lot of money with, obviously, with just strip as opposed to the full repavement. And of course, we use it for the other projects, but that's the balance. That's why you see the differences. In some areas we have to meet, whether it's, for instance, sidewalk consideration, road consideration. Different cities are just different, and they're all different. they don't have the same requirements for us when we come through, or permitting. So,
Yet.
Yet.
Okay.
I think we just have the future.
Okay.
Which it's just quickly up about the amount of investment that totals just over $1 billion, and the breakdown. So of course, it's different, but it's based on that systematic, objective, industry standard that these two, our engineering consultants, have really come up with for our strategy on replacement. Now, keep in mind, the list is going to change. Every 2 years, if you recall, we come back to you with an updated CIP. In addition, the team really looks at what has changed in those criteria Shane mentioned, and Brad works on, whether it's the likelihood of failure or the consequence of failure on an annual basis, to see if projects have moved up in the line, have moved down in the line. So things change from year to year. Obviously, we have a dynamic system. More breaks may occur in one area. Certain hydraulics may change, or we may need more resiliency in different areas. So we have the plan right now, but of course next year it will change. And of course we'll bring updates to you going forward.
Just to follow up to that comment, the more breaks you have and the greater inconvenience, unfortunately, that the residents are experiencing is actually a good thing on the replacement, because it prioritizes
It prioritizes you, unfortunately.
Right.
But a lot of times, even though it's prioritized, it still takes months
Right.
to even begin the project. So even if a particular area that we already have packaged, and keep in mind, we have hundreds of projects already packaged, how they move on the scale could be dependent on the additional breaks, but we may not have contractor capacity. Or we may be coming back to y'all and saying, okay, we're going to change things around, let's do a change order so we could get a project done quickly. But it still takes months. You have pre-construction activity that has to take place, so it's not a quick fix. It's unfortunate. The good thing is the board really took the bull by the horns earlier this year and committed to doing that investment and really tackling the issue. So we do appreciate that. We now have money and funding. So.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
And this is just a couple of projects that are aside from the small diameters. Those are the larger projects, but that's really it.
Okay. Commissioners, any other? Commissioner Johnson.
Yes, I did have a follow-up question for some of the prepackaged projects. And if some of them are, when we say prepackaged, are we just talking, we have the construction plans or we have permits? Right. Hi, Brad. Good to see you again.
Brad, you can answer.
No, actually, well, for the prepackaged projects, they're primarily just ones where we've designated this area or this neighborhood as a project. We've created, on paper.
Okay.
If it needs permits or easements or whatever, those won't come until we're ready to start executing that project. Okay. And many of these prepackaged projects are small diameter. In fact, the vast majority of them are small diameter, many of which we're doing without designs. As we mentioned earlier, we're just, we're using the on-call contractors and just going out and putting them in because it's very much a cut and replace type situation. There's not a lot of design that needs to be done.
Yeah. I'm actually glad to hear that, because in a previous life when I was doing design for DeKalb County water system on these replacement projects, a lot of times I'm like, why do I need to do a plan? The contractors know what they need to do. Why am I taking the time?
That's sort of what we've realized as well, is we can actually do these really fast.
Yes.
By skipping a lot of the red tape and just getting them in the ground. And these contractors, they know what they're doing. We still have oversight. We still have construction managers. We still have input and all that. We're controlling the process. It's not out of control or anything, but at the same time, we are able to deliver a lot faster.
Yeah, it's much more efficient. So good to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Terry, please go ahead.
Yeah, just a question on the CIP in general. So we have approved the 10-year plan, but what is y'all's process and schedule for coming back each year to amend that plan?
So it's according to our standard operating procedures, we come back every 2 years with a revised, updated CIP. And we essentially may have additional projects that come on. We go through, we do a full reprioritization, and we update the cost figures as well, and then we bring it back to the board for approval again.
Okay. And in the meantime, what is the status of the CIP monitor procurement process? I think we passed that about 2 months ago.
I think last
and
month, the monitor.
The CIP monitor.
So we need to get, I'm not sure who's monitoring me, but I do know that.
That was the resolution that we passed.
I know we passed
2 months ago.
Because I think, Matt, I know we needed to just make sure that they knew they could not bid on anything just because of internal information. I think we remember.
Yeah.
That was my only comment back because we reviewed the documentation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know that passed, but I'm not sure where it is in the process. Do you know?
Okay. Well, I think just wanted to
Okay.
flag that because I think that was
Okay.
an important sort of aspect, and that was kind of my earlier question of just, obviously there's a lot of work to be done,
Yes.
and the best I think approach is for us to always be in communication, so we have expectations. Obviously, things will come up and
Yeah.
delays will happen, but progress will happen as well. And I think that was sort of the board's desire is that we kind of would have our CIP monitor that was sort of just be in touch on a regular basis, just so we can follow along, down the line. And then obviously, like you said, every 2 years you might be.
We're coming back
bringing-
formally with an agenda item. And hopefully, we do post on the CIP page. We try to provide all the updates on projects that are running as well, just so that the public also understands what's out there. And the larger projects, especially on the sewer side, we do have town halls a couple of years ahead of time, and then we keep those project pages updated on the website as well. So we're hoping that we're transparent, because of the investment that the community is making in this, based on your leadership.
Thank you.
All right, perfect. Again, commissioners, thank you.
We have a full team.
To the entire full team, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate the updates. And I guess the final thing to say is even with those additional breaks, and you move up in the list,
You move up the list.
you still have to go through the 2-year review process, and then there's still the.
Not necessarily, because if there's a change, we do look at projects, the water projects, on an annual basis, like each year, when we're laying out the plan for the CIP, because we have to assign the contractors. The contractors only have a certain amount of scope and dollars in their contracts, and we fill it quickly, so we know what projects we've slotted and the time frame, so we're not overlapping. So it's more updated, in other words, and sometimes we have emergency projects that come up. So if breaks are just happening like crazy, and we've had one this year, we just pull it up in there. So in the CIP, we've maintained that flexibility by allocated, a certain amount of dollars, like $30 million for a small diameter, and that gives us flexibility to move projects. But we want to make sure that the public knows and the constituents knows that we are utilizing. It's not a subjective methodology. We've tried to make it more objective as possible, so that we're not causing a community to wait just because somebody is, asking a lot.
Yep.
Does that help?
All right, it helps a lot. Thank you very much. Appreciate you and
Thank
the
you.
team being here. Thank you all. All right, commissioners, with that said, let's move into our agenda for new items. We have under Department of Watershed Management, Agenda item 2025-0955. This is for all commission districts, I believe sole source Hatch Company parts and services for use by the Department of Watershed Management. Consists of the purchase of water quality monitoring equipment, parts, and service, including startup, calibration, and repairs, exclusively performed by Hatch's factory-trained technicians. This request seeks to establish a 3-year agreement to ensure regulatory compliance and continued operations of DWM's water monitoring systems, awarded to Hatch Company, amount not to exceed $2,190,000. Director Wells, good to see you.
Likewise, good afternoon, everyone. This item we use throughout our water distribution network. It allows us to do real-time, it's instrumentation to do real-time monitoring of water quality, which is required by the Safe Drinking Water Act, both federal and state. So this is ultimately a vendor that we've actually, I want to say, probably have about a 2-decade relationship with, hence the fact sole source. We already have several pieces of their instrumentations throughout our system in DeKalb. And this allows us to continue to service that equipment and add additional equipment in areas where there may be an obsolete piece or it just requires replacement.
Okay, commissioners, any questions, concerns, comments?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Seeing none, I'll open the floor for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we got a proper motion, proper second. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Moving on, we have agenda item 2025-1019. This is for all commission districts. EM, I guess that's emergency snap finger vault and trunk sewer assessment and cleaning for use by the Department of Watershed Management. This temporary contract consists of the assessment and cleaning of known sites experiencing sanitary sewer overflows during rain events. This is use of the total integrated sonar and closed circuit television, TISCIT if you will. Inspection technique will allow for the contractor the ability to view and clean away the debris leading to current reductions in sewer capacity. This request seeks to ratify the emergency purchase of large diameter trunk sewer assessment and cleaning services awarded to Compliance Enviro Systems LLC, amount not to exceed $5,096,263.15. Director Wells.
Yes, sir. So this item is specifically to assessment of the trunk sewer. We've made a commitment ultimately to the regulatory agency that will have assessment completed by year end. In particular, we need to identify the amount of silt that currently exists in the system that's ultimately taking up capacity. Hence the fact when it rains, we
Have problems.
Absolutely.
Right.
So that's the TISCIT portion to really give you a sound profile of what needs to be removed. And then the actual cleaning portion, we have to rectify by July 2026. So basically within a year amount of time, we not only have to assess, but have to clean, hence the fact why it's an emergency. We just don't have the liberty of time to ensure that we begin addressing a known problem area that tend to spill every time we have heavy rain. In fact, we just had a major this event.
Right, right. Okay. This item has not come back from audit?
No. Not sure it's even been sent.
It has, yeah.
Okay. But it hadn't come back yet.
Okay.
But
our usual process is anything over $3 million we wait for audit.
Absolutely.
You said emergency here, so I just want to be clear. The normal audit process review is going to be acceptable. That works?
yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Okay.
Process is the process.
Understood.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
No? I'll open the floor for a motion.
I move to defer item 1019 for 2 weeks.
Second.
All right, we got a proper motion, proper second. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
All right, we got that addressed. All right, next items, agenda, and I don't know if you want us to take these together, Director Wells. Agenda item 2025-1114 and 2025-1115. These are both for Districts 4 and 7. Agreement for the construction and finance of sewer upgrades with Place Services Incorporated with a contribution of $226,500, as well as agreement for construction and financing of sewer upgrades with True Worth Developments, LLC, with a contribution of $172,000.
Yes, so both of these items in particular are basically for two developments that ultimately requires system upgrades in order to issue and retain the necessary capacity in order to facilitate the developments. So as we've done before, there's a cost sharing between the county as well as the developer. In these particular cases, the first one, our county contribution is not to exceed $71,000 of the total $297,000. The $226,500 is ultimately what's required to be reimbursed back to us by the private entity.
Okay.
In the second one, the county contribution is not to exceed $53,500 of the total $225,500 required for the improvements. The reimbursement back to us would be $172,000.
Okay.
And both of them are for housing units, and just nothing unusual as it relates to the cost sharing.
Yep.
Yes. thank
Commissioner
you,
Johnson?
Mr. Chair, so just to make sure I'm understanding, for both of these upcoming developments coming in, they need to upgrade the sewer system. We will do the work, the county
Correct.
will do the work, but they are paying us. And then there's a
Correct.
portion that we cover, but they cover the bulk of it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Masai?
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just to be clear, for instance, if we're talking about the item ending in 1114, then our contribution would be the $226,500, or is that the contribution that will be made by the construction and, well, that's the part we would be contributing, correct?
No.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry.
Yes, yeah, no, that's what I was trying to understand. I wanted to be clear as to who was contributing what part, because I wrote down the numbers and they didn't seem to, so just trying to understand.
Correct. So it does read kind of confusing. So the amount in the actual subject is what will be contributed by the private entity. In the specific case you mentioned, 1114, Place Services, Inc. will contribute the $226,500. And if you look at the bottom of the agenda item where it states physical impact, the county contribution is not anticipated to exceed $71,000.
I'm sorry, you're saying, go ahead, Commissioner Terry.
Okay, real quick, I was going to just suggest, because I think this program was brought to us by the law department last year, and it's a pretty novel program. I think this is the first time we've had this year, so I don't know if, just for the new commissioners, if Attorney Welch or, the law department can kind of just kind of get everyone up to speed on this program in particular, since it might be new to some. Have we had a couple of them?
Yeah, we have.
I thought we did. Okay.
We've had a couple.
A lot going on back then, so. At first,
There are questions.
Attorney Welch.
Okay.
So, yeah, this is just a cost-sharing program when when a developer or a program comes in and we don't have capacity on hand. This is a way to cost share the increase in capacity necessary to allow this development to be permitted. It has two benefits. One, it reduces the cost of that upsized infrastructure to the county, but the primary benefit to the developer is that it allows their project to move forward faster without waiting on the department's priority list for capacity improvements and expansion. So it essentially puts the new capacity where we know it's going to be needed and allows a cost-sharing effort.
Okay, and so just again, reference to the agenda item 1114, for instance, the contribution by place services was the 226,500, and then our contribution won't exceed 71,000.
Yeah, I believe the current formula is roughly 3/4 is paid by the developer and 1/4 is paid by us, I think is the standard, though it does deviate sometimes, but yes.
All right, and that's just, they paid ahead and then we do a contribution after the fact so that they can move forward and go ahead and complete the project?
So we move forward with the infrastructure
Okay.
improvement, and this is reimbursement.
Got it, okay.
So they reimbursed us that top contribution item.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Johnson?
I'm not going to nerd out. Don't worry about it. And when we move forward with the upgrade, is it before they get their permits? Like when do we have the sewer in place in relation to their development in general terms?
It moves in tandem.
Okay.
So because once you go through the permitting, it's actually conceptual at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So we approach you guys for approval to even engage in this manner. So at the same time of once we get this approval, permits are issued, we let construction, so there's some timing, because ultimately in the actual agreement, if the developer for whatever reason decides not to move forward, but yet we've commenced construction and a certain amount of time relaxed, they're still responsible for the reimbursement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we're moving in tandem, basically.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, commissioners? Commissioner Terry, you're good? Okay. That said, we'll take these, I guess, one by one. The explanation was all together, but we're going to take these one by one. So for agenda item 2025-1114, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
All right.
Second.
Got a proper motion, proper second. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
All right. And then moving on to 2025-1115, again, open the floor for a motion.
I move to approve.
Second.
All right. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Perfect. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. All right, we're going to move on to Public Works Sanitation. This is agenda item 2025-1006. This is for all commission districts. Low bid invitation number 24-10023, curb bumping and street sweeping, annual contract with two options to renew for use by the Department of Public Works Sanitation. Consists of curb bumping and street sweeping services for 41 streets located throughout the county. These services include removing litter, leaves, and sand, dirt, rocks, pine straw, and other debris from the county roads and entrances of each basin. Recommend award to the lowest responsive and responsible bidders, Patco Services, LLC, and Sweeping Corporation of America, LLC. Total amount not to exceed $123,364.72. Director
Thanks,
Hutchinson,
Commissioner.
good to see you again.
Good to see you. Good to see everyone today. This is for the curb bumping, and our vendor that we work with is Patco. They have the contract now. This is just a renewal. I did notice, though, did you get a copy of the roads that are listed? The roads that are listed, these are some of our high corridor roads. We did have the contractor over a lesson learned to go ahead and do curb bumping in this, because the sweeper could only pick up just the loose debris. So we need their crew to go ahead of the sweeper and actually knock the debris loose. So then when the sweeper is there, they could go ahead and pick it up. Now, most people say, when is the sweeper working? The sweeper is working. It works at night, and then it is running. But it is a very slow process because we're trying to curb bump also. So if we could get our crews out there to help, we will, but majority of the time we're asking them to go ahead and try to knock the debris loose before the sweeper get out there. And then, of course, they do everything based on miles, so these charges are based on miles.
All right. And as always, I think in the past you've said if there's additional roads or attention, let you know as soon as possible.
Correct. So what happens is that this is the roads that we have been focusing on, and we basically run the same circle pretty much all the time. And like I said, these are more of the high traffic roads, but these are the roads that we have been concentrating on. We don't go into subdivisions.
Okay.
I'm going to say that for the new commissioners,
Okay.
because we had that. We don't let the sweepers can't go into subdivision, but if you got some roads that need to be added, yes, we can add those to the contract also.
Okay. While everyone is reviewing their roads, just for clarity with that little nugget of knowledge you gave us, so if you're in a neighborhood and there is stuff that needs to be picked up, how do we address that?
When you say stuff like what type of debris, is it a bulk item or is it a
No.
storm?
This is going to be, there's been storms and the curb and gutter is all loaded up with pine straw, sand, dirt, and all that. Is that something where we have a crew that can just go out there manually and pick it up, or how would we work to get that taken care of?
So I'm gonna say yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, the county can handle that, but no, it's not beautification.
Understood. Very good clarification. Very, very good clarification.
So if Mr. Lincoln, you want to come up, that would storm the storm drains fall on the roads and drainage.
Okay.
But if we're out there on Memorial Drive or anywhere, we go ahead and take care of it.
Understood. Understood.
So I don't want you to think that we're calling roads and drainage to say, hey, come out here and clean out this storm drain or anything like that. If we're there, we take care of it.
Understood.
So no matter what road we're on, we're going to leave a finished product.
Perfect. Thank you for that explanation, Director.
Yes.
Commissioners, any questions? Hang on one second. Commissioner Terry? No. Ted, go ahead. Or Commissioner Terry, go ahead.
Yes, I have a request
All right. Let's hear it.
to add a road,
Okay. I didn't bring my pen up.
Constitution.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, C.O. Williams. I didn't bring my pen up. Sorry. Usually I come prepared.
You have Boulder Crest.
Okay, so what was the, what?
Constitution.
Constitution?
I didn't see it on here, but I'm looking again just to make sure. But basically from Moreland and Constitution east to, one second.
And just to ask, obviously, this is for all unincorporated areas.
It is. This is all
If someone is municipalized and they have their own roads and drainage, Public Works Department, then we're not involved in that.
That's
To
correct.
Clifton Church Road
Clifton Church? I'm familiar with that one, okay.
in Group 2, what is it?
Constitution, Clifton Church Road. You had
Yeah,
another one,
maybe-
Commissioner?
No, that was it. Yeah, it's basically Moreland to Clifton Church Road, and
Okay,
it's
I'm sorry.
Constitution Road, and it's probably would make sense to put in Group 2 next to Boulder Crest, which is number 10 on the list.
Okay.
That's for the benefit of District 3 and 6.
Oh, I know it. I know the streets. I know them well.
Commissioner Masai, did you have one? You had a road?
Commissioner Terry just mentioned some streets in 3. That's what he was saying for the benefit of 3 and 6.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson? Okay.
Could I
Commissioner
add
Patrick?
Pleasantdale Road?
All
Those are
right.
good folks on Pleasantdale Road. And I know
Did
you've
you
got.
notice that we've been out there?
Not only did I notice, I saw your crew over at Wendy's having some lunch with
Oh,
me.
okay.
Good guys.
All right.
And then driving down Henderson Mill Road, I saw the whole crew out there, and I was, I think that was Friday I saw them, and,
Yes.
top-notch team. Thank you
Great.
very much as always.
Excellent. All
Very
right, I'll
grateful.
pass that back to the crew.
Well, it was that cold front from Canada, and the temperature dropped. So it was hot, but it wasn't like sweltering hot. But no, very good team to have out there. Commissioners, unless there's any other questions, I'll open up the floor for a motion. And of course, if there's something else you wanted added, please reach out to Director as quick as possible in time for next week.
Motion to approve agenda item ending in 1006
With the additional street.
with the additional
streets.
streets as modified.
Yes, and I have Constitution, Bouldercrest, and Pleasantdale Road.
Yep.
Second.
All right. We got proper motion, proper second. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
The next one is Public Works Transportation. And we're going to talk about sidewalks because who doesn't like sidewalks? This is agenda item 2025-0953. This is for all commission districts. Change order number 2 to contract number 1281318, and change order number 5 to contract number 1281319. Sidewalks and roadways, multi-year, for use by the Departments of Public Works, Transportation, Roads and Drainage, Recreation, Parks and Cultural Affairs. These contracts consist of sidewalks, drainage improvements, minor road improvements, bike lanes, multi-use trails, and curb and shoulder improvements. This request seeks to increase the contract funds in term through December 31st, 2026. This request also seeks approval to transfer funds between contracts based on the needs of the county, awarded to Autoco Development, LLC, and DAF Concrete Incorporated. Total amount not to exceed $1 million. Director Lemke.
Yeah, the description is pretty succinct as far as what this contract is intended to do. We utilize these contracts for sidewalk repairs and a number of different items. It's a multi-department contract. There were a number of different agencies within the county due to utilize this thing. And you can probably see that some of the past change orders have been targeted towards specific sidewalk projects. The increase that is being requested now in the change order is to allow us to ramp up our sidewalk repair program through roads and drainage. So we're looking at extending that contract, doing some sidewalk repair activities that are badly needed throughout the county, and utilizing these contracts to do it. This increases the contract cap so that we can utilize these particular contractors without having to go for a new ITV.
And I think Commissioner Terry through FAB had heard some discussions on, was it $50,000 per district we approved at some point for sidewalk repairs. So hopefully those funds can be also pushed into this, and we can, you'll take the money. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Because we want the sidewalks repaired. We need the sidewalks repaired. Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Johnson?
I do have a question. When we're doing these sidewalk repairs, is there instances where we also repair or replace the curb, or is it like if they're connected?
If they're connected, we can generally, we try and somewhat separate them as far as the contractor itself, simply because of ease of construction. We can utilize this contract for curb and gutter repairs as well. But right now, the concentration seems to be more for sidewalks than curb and gutter. That being said, if you've got specific locations, give me a yell, send me an email, and we'll see what we can do with them.
This is actually more just of a general thought. I know we've had conversation in the past about the granite curbs and the problems it can be resetting those, and I was literally driving down, I think, Rock Ridge Road, looking at granite curb and wondering, is it more efficient instead of trying to reset the granite curb, just to start replacing with the concrete curb? That's not going to have quite as many issues, and at least also an easier replacement.
Generally, it is. Personally, I like the concrete more than the granite. The granite just, seems to be a little bit of a problematic thing for the county. Mm-hmm. Part of the problem that we get with any of these curb replacement programs is what happens in ramping the natural groundwater or natural ground grades to the back of the curb. You start to raise it, and all of a sudden now you've got a lip where water cannot drain into the curb from the yard, and then you have to go back into the yard to make modifications in some locations and some other areas. And that's where you get into a little bit of a concern in replacing those. So, we do tend to look at those a little bit differently,
That's
but
good.
Certainly it's not an impossibility.
Okay. Good to know that when we are coming across these, that we are taking the time to look at them and not
Yes,
creating
we are, and again,
an additional problem.
I certainly encourage, if you've got specific areas, you observe something, send me an email.
Okay. Thank you.
Hang on a second. Commissioner Masai?
I just need to, just asking a quick question in terms of the costs what cost are we per foot of concrete for the sidewalks now? What is the cost per foot?
I'll have to get back to you on that as far as the cost and whether we do per square foot on the sidewalk or lineal foot. Generally, curb is generally done by lineal foot.
Okay.
But I'll just get back to you with that.
I appreciate it. Just in being, reminded by Commissioner Patrick in terms of that $50,000. Just curious as to, what the charges. With that, I yield back to you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Without even knowing the numbers, I know it's not going to be enough.
Right.
But it's a start. That's the main thing. It's a start.
I was going to say, I could quote you some numbers from when I administered contracts myself personally about 15 years ago. But
Right. I think anything pre-pandemic does not hold persuasion anymore. A director I used to work for would say, I think it was $100 a linear foot for a 5-foot sidewalk. 5-foot wide sidewalk was his rule of thumb for approaching things, but that's all topsy-turvy now. Commissioner Terry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the funding source is general operating R&D. But in, I guess, the case that Commissioner Johnson was bringing up where we have some neighbors that might be in a low-lying area. I think we've talked about the one neighbor that we're concerned about who has the kind of the old granite curbs, and they're sort of broken apart where, conceivably water could be sort of pouring over into those gaps. Would it be possible to explore, instead of replacing the granite curbs, do what Commissioner Johnson was suggesting of removing them and just doing a concrete curb line so there's no infiltration of stormwater into that person's yard? It goes into the drain, and that might address one issue of many issues.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, there's nothing in our ordinances or in our requirements that said simply because there's a granite curb there now that it has to be granite forever. That's really not the case. And certainly, if a concrete curb makes more sense, I don't have any problem putting it in whatsoever. Some of the difficulty that we do get into is a lot of residents like the granite simply because of appearance and the fact that it's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, the character of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay, so but this contract, if we had stormwater funds that were allocated but this contract could be used to sort of do that sort of curb replacement as a concrete curb in theory.
Yeah, we could, again, because this is allocating money for the contractor so that we can utilize that. So if we have stormwater funds that are allocated or that we can use for that, certainly we can throw those in there. I think some of the work that we're anticipating is probably actually coming from the LMIG grant that goes into the county's budget, for the sidewalk program that you saw a few weeks back.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. Commissioners, unless there's any other questions, I'll open the floor up for a motion.
Move
Thank
to
you.
approve item 0953.
Second.
All right, we got a proper motion, proper second. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Well, this is the hard part of the day, everybody.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. And we got a second. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, everybody, for your time. I appreciate you.